Happy Book Club Thursday, Paper and Glam family. I'm so excited to have our Girls Night book chat tonight. We are discussing November's read, which is Cheryl Strayed's Tiny Beautiful Things. I can't wait to talk about this book with you guys. It was so good. This is in my top 3 probably books I read this year, so I cannot wait to talk about it. I already said that, but that's great. All right, what is your favorite podcast right now? So our icebreaker for today is inspired because Cheryl Strayed and Steve Almond, the original Dear Sugars, have a weekly podcast where they still answer questions just like in the book. So I thought it would be fun to go around and say what our favorite podcasts are. I feel like last year was the year of the podcast and everybody started a podcast. And so many people asked if I would start a podcast, which I want to do all the things, but podcasting is probably not in my near future unless I did a God and Glam podcast or something. Anyway, so I would say my favorite podcast, which actually you guys told me about, is the Shawna Nyquist podcast. It's in its first season. It's part of the Relevant podcast series, and there was only 8 episodes in the first season, and I really enjoyed it. That was really fun. And let's see, what other podcasts? I really love the new Denver podcast, as Margie knows. That's my church in Denver. I still listen to that podcast. And yeah, I think that's kind of the only 2 that I listen to religiously every week, I would say. Tabitha, do you listen to podcasts?
So the weird thing for me is that I don't know, it's weird. I technically don't, but whenever I'm with my husband, I do enjoy Fresh Air with Terry Gross, but it's only when I'm with him that I'll listen to it. I haven't found my own that I've been interested in or anything like that. But that's the only one that I've experienced that I do enjoy.
I listened my way through the Gilmore Guys podcast because I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan. And they were super enjoyable. I actually saw them live last fall in Boulder. Just a lot of fun. Yeah, I also really enjoyed the Serial podcast that This American Life does. So anything story-wise, I love.
I subscribe to quite a few podcasts. The one that I listen to on a most regular basis, not every week, but the one that I tend to I need to listen to a podcast real quick, is about books. And it is What Should I Read Next with Anne Bogle. And she matches people with their literary tastes to a book that they might enjoy. And they give 3 books, and then she gives 3 book ideas, so that she's talking to regular people, sometimes authors, sometimes people that have their own blogs or podcasts or whatever, and she also talks to them about their life. So you kind of get I love just hearing about people's lives, so you get that and also book recommendations. So it's kind of my favorite.
I don't really listen to any podcasts, I guess. My husband will make me listen. He listens to podcasts. It's just not a thing I do. But he listens to Adam Carolla's podcast and or he'll podcast stuff from KFI and stuff. And I listen to KFI. But never really been interested in listening to. I feel like I've listened to a couple, but nothing that even strikes my mind.
My podcast playlist is ever evolving depending on what I'm into at the moment. I go through seasons where I'll listen to different YouTubers and kind of catch up on what's going on with them. I like the Shawna Nyquist one. I like the one by Leanne Vogel. She talks about health and dieting and that kind of thing. I've listened to The Catholic Guy. I've listened to Joel Osteen. Like I said, it depends on what I'm kind of into. I'll download a few, kind of binge listen, and then, decide move on to something else. So yeah, depending on what I'm into at the moment. And thankfully there's something for everybody. There's something for all different tastes or what you're what your little heart desires.
Awesome. Well, I just subscribed to some new podcasts. I don't know if you guys did, but I just subscribed to What Should I Read Next? That's pretty cool. Mandy Pritchard said that in the comments, Erica, like right as you said it, which is too funny. And then I also just subscribed to Happier, the Gretchen Rubin podcast. I love Gretchen Rubin. I don't know why I'm not subscribed to her podcast. So thank you, Sarah Piper, for that recommendation. And we're missing Sarah tonight, and I know she's a big Gretchen Rubin fan too. So I hope that was a fun icebreaker, trying to switch it up a little bit. All right, on to our first question, which is always our first question every month. What was your experience reading Tiny Beautiful Things, or whatever book we're reading this month? And I loved it, like I said, 5 stars all the way. So we just kind of, I know there's a few new people to our book club, so I'm kind of trying to unpack things a little bit. But first question is always just, did you enjoy it? How did you read it? Where did you read it? And just kind of the basics. Did you read it quickly? I plowed through it. I probably read it in less than a week, which is why I got the discussion questions up nice and early on Goodreads. I was so excited to talk about this book. I know that some folks found the language was a little bit crude, which is definitely true, but I totally agree with what Sarah said in our Goodreads group, that the payoff was more than worth it. And that's Cheryl's style. She just says it, and she kind of, she's definitely not she's not prudish at all, I guess I would say. And she's definitely somebody who just says it like she thinks it. And there's a lot of good that comes from that, I think, along with some profanity. Margie, what did you think? Or sorry, Tabitha, I skipped you. Tabitha, what did you think?
That's okay. It's really hard for me. I had a hard time giving it, but I didn't like it. So I gave it a 1 star. It's just hard, doing the whole star thing, but this is not my reading jam at all. It's hard for me to get through, this particular format, just because it's like, I don't know, I feel like I was annoyed, and I didn't want to be annoyed, but I just was like, I listened to it. So I don't know if that's part of it, but, when she would answer I would be annoyed with some of the questions that people had, and then I would be annoyed with some of her responses, and I would be annoyed with her saying hun or sweetie and all. It's just hard, so hard for me. But I think that it is like the way that she writes. I appreciate the way that she writes, but I didn't like the book. I don't know if that makes any sense. That probably doesn't even. How can that even make sense? But I don't know if it's just the content, because to me, it's like they're all cliffhangers. These people have these serious issues, serious problems, and then so I'm like, what happened with that? It just leaves me kind of sad and depressed. It was like a cliffhanger. I need closure. I love happily ever after. This was just sad after sad and sad. I don't know. It was just I was just heartbroken the whole time. So it wasn't my fave.
I think I gave it a 3. I'd have to go back and double check. But I would say that I really enjoyed 40% of it. And then I did get the annoying feeling that Tabitha got as well with some of the stories and scenarios. I absolutely appreciate with people and just telling them what's up while also being sympathetic. She was never rude or mean about it. But yeah, there were some letters that I could have done without. And there were some that were so not applicable to me in my life that I don't know. It felt like it wasn't my favorite, but there were other letters that I loved. And I loved what she said to certain people and her advice, and definitely highlighted it. I will definitely keep it and flip it open to write those quotes down. But it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars too. I really enjoyed parts of it, and then other parts, I don't know that I would say, like Tabitha, that I was annoyed at certain parts, but certain parts didn't feel connected to, I guess. I enjoy the stories that she told about her life, but sometimes I didn't get the connection to the letters that she was responding to, like how that story connected. And so it kind of pulled me out of in response to them. It felt kind of like going off on a tangent, which is fine because I enjoyed the story, but like, why is she telling that story at this point? But I think that her writing style is great. Like, there are some quotes in here that I like had to read 3 or 4 times because I was just like, oh my gosh, that's like such a great way of putting that. So yeah, I would say 3, pretty middle of the road for me.
I don't know, 2, 3, something like that. Nonfiction books like this, where they're always like little like chunked stories, I find hard, not in so much that they're hard to read, but I really have the sense of like, oh, I can get to that later. Oh, that's short and quick and easy to read. Oh, and because it's so quick and easy to read, it causes me to like put it off. So I still have like 50 pages left to read, because then I'm like, oh, like I have to read like 200 pages in like today, which I could have if I didn't have to work, but so then I ended up like not completely finishing almost to then, but I think that that's always like a problem with like anecdotal nonfiction for me. That's just a bunch of little short stories, is I have the feeling of like, there's no pressure to end it. I could end it today, or I could end it in 5 years, and it's not going to change my opinion of the book, because there's not like a cohesiveness that needs to like, there's not an imperative. And I like the language, like I'm not I don't understand like why people have to cuss. I really don't. I'm one of those people, I'm like, I don't know why. Like, why do you got to do that? Like, you're a smart, educated person. I know you know a better word. But that's like the thing. My best friend, like, if this could have been written by my best friend, this is how she talks to people. So it reminded me of her. And so that's probably the aspect I liked about it. But I definitely like thought some of her advice was not like where I would go, or, like she and I have definitely different worldviews. And, but I appreciate candor and stuff. So that's why I'm kind of like in between a 2 and 3, because there's a lot of stuff I disliked, but there were like things I liked about it as well.
I agree with the 2.5-ish star rating. The language doesn't bother me. I could take it or I can leave it. It doesn't bother me in the narrative. I agree with what Erica said about the storytelling, and waiting for her to kind of circle back and connect the dots. And sometimes by the time she did that, I forgot what the question was. So yeah, I totally agree with that. I also agree with what someone said about a lot of it not being relatable. And I know that that's one of the questions coming up. What is more related to you? Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't thrilled with the way the book was kind of set up, and exactly what Jada was saying. There's no really sense of cohesiveness that you need to read the next letter to find out. There's none of that. So it was kind of weird, out of my wheelhouse. But still glad I read it. Still little tidbits in it. But yeah, I would say probably a 2.5 star.
I love how we're like all over the board with this book. I think the reason for me this is 5 stars is because I read to understand the human experience. Like, that's what I read for. So she has so many, like Erica was saying, she has so many quotes that I had to go back and read like 3 or 4 times because it was so interesting. And she had some really interesting things to say about Jesus, which was really blew me away, because she's, not a Christian, but she had some really insightful things to say that I thought were just so well articulated. So anyway, yeah, I think that's why I loved it. Plus, I just like stories that are somewhat random. I loved Wild, and her book Wild was also a lot about that. So anywho, let's move on to what was your favorite letter and why? Let's see. I have so many, so I marked a bunch. I'm going to go last, and I'm just going to choose one that nobody will choose, if that's okay. Or nobody does choose. I can't speak tonight. Sorry, guys. Do you have a favorite letter, Tabitha? Or no, it was just like a 1 star. It's okay if you need to take a pass. No,
I do have one. The one where the student was complaining about paying the student loans. Because it was just like, I appreciated the way that she pretty much says, yeah, grow up and deal with it. You can, you're not the only one who's going to have to pay for your education. I could relate to that one because I myself paid for my own education. Took me much longer, but I just felt like I felt like she, the way that she said what needed to be said, I could appreciate that. So that was my favorite letter.
I actually think the first one was my favorite because of her response. Like, she had some awesome quotes in the first one, and I'll paraphrase her here, but like, the best thing you can possibly do with your life is to tackle the crap out of love, which I thought was so like kind of broad and yet relates to all of us. And then, to be honest, any of her letters about people dealing with loss, I really appreciated, because I know that she had gone through that. I did read Wild. Really appreciated that part of her story. My family has gone through our fair share of loss, and so just her ability to be super raw and honest about what that feels like and what it looks like and how you move forward was really helpful to me, and I think helpful to the people who wrote those letters as well.
My favorite was the one called The Ordinary Miraculous, which is a story about being at like an estate sale or garage sale or whatever, and her mom buys a dress for a little girl, and she's like, I have no idea why I want this dress, but I do. And so her mom bought it for her, and then years later her daughter is wearing it, and just like her being like that emotion of my mom, who died when I was in college, bought a dress for my daughter that was not even a thought in my mind until years later. And I just love that story of like how these random things that we do in life, we end up getting basically the payoff from them.
My favorite was the same as Tabitha. I like that one, and it's probably because like I paid for my bachelor's degree up front, but I got a student loan for my master's degree, and so I'm still paying it off. I have goals though, like 5-year goals here, people, because I don't like that. It's the only debt I have other than my house, so I want it gone. But anyway, so I like that, like the idea of like, you're 25, like seriously, like you are 25, like pay that crap. Like, get a job and pay that crap. Stop being a baby. Like deal with it. I'm very like, I'm a little bit raw like that too. Like that, I don't understand, like why would your parents be paying your student loan? That's your student loan. If they couldn't pay for college in the first place, how can they pay for your loan? There was a reason you had to get it. So that's crazy to me. I also liked the one right after it, the known unknowns about the guy, and like he sleeps with his ex-girlfriend's friend, and like just the way she laid that out, and I was like, yeah, clearly, guy, like you say this is like, I know what love is at the end, and I was like, no, you don't. Like, you slept with the, like, what? No, this is like a fling. Like 2 weeks, you don't know what love is. So I just like the way she laid it out and kind of like gently, sarcastically, underhandedly told him like, you know that's not love. I liked that.
Awesome. There were so many, like I said. I feel like all of the letters that she addressed suffering in, which is at least 60%, were just done so well. I don't know that I could pick a favorite except for the one that related to me the most. So I guess I'll move on to number 3. I totally related to the guy who didn't know if he wanted to have children. I don't know if anyone else is out there like me. I feel like I'm an anomaly, but I never really have like decided on that, which is weird because I'm 31. I have a small window to decide on that one, but I think that I would regret it if I didn't. And I always felt like, you guys who know me know I'm type awesome. I have had such a clear vision for my life and such a clear vision for, what God has for me. And even when it looked like it may never happen and I was, working 2 jobs, paying those darn student loans, I still believed in this vision, and I'm so grateful so many of you believed in it. And this was like, that's making, work paper and stickers is way more outlandish than like deciding whether you want kids or knowing whether you want kids. But I have always struggled with that. And I just feel like it's so strange that I don't know this about myself. I think part of it too is that my mom has set such a high bar for motherhood that, and I'm so all or nothing, like I want to be her. And if I was a mother, I'd want to be the type of mother she's been. And yeah, I just don't know how she did it with like owning her own business and, you know, being a single mom and all of that. But it's just so overwhelming, the thought of kids on top of, you know, life. I think hopefully you moms out there can relate or give me some guidance. But yeah, I loved what she said. And one of the things that she said too about just choices in life, I really appreciated. It was on page 235. She said, thinking about your choices and actions from the stance of your future self can serve as both a motivational and a corrective force. It can help you stay true to who you really are, as well as inspire you to leverage your desires against your fears. Not regretting it later is the reason I've done at least 3/4 of the best things in my life. And she says, because you are content in your current childless life, attempting to determine what you might regret later strikes me as the best way for you to meaningfully explore if having a child is important to you. And that resonated with me so deeply. You know, it's like quitting my job. Everyone told me not to do it. I was so blessed with such an incredible career and, you know, a very stable, secure career. And, you know, self-employment is not that way at all. But I was like, nope, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. And nobody else agrees. That's totally fine. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So if I don't take this jump and, you know, still here, still making it. So yeah, all that to say, I loved that letter. I think I read it like 3 times, and I, you know, like some of you shared, I felt like the letters were completely unrelatable to me by and large, but then I read that one and it was like, it felt like it was just written for me. So I totally appreciated it. Let's see. Feel free to take a pass on this if you guys didn't find one that, you know, you felt like was relatable to your own life. So Tabitha, besides the student loans one, which I think many of us can relate to, is there any other one that related?
Yeah, we're missing Cindy.
Did I jump over Cindy? Oh my gosh. Cindy, I'm so sorry. I'm having an off night. What?
That's okay. You know what? I'll answer the number 2 and then I'll skip the number 3. How about that?
Okay, that sounds fair to me.
Okay, because I think I have more to say about that one. For the number 2 question, which was my favorite Dear Sugar letter and why, I liked the one from the dad who lost his son, living dead dad, signed living dead dad. And there's a few things that I like about this letter. It starts, I think, on page 277. And one of the things that I like about the way this letter is written is he's got point form. He's got his points listed from number 1 to number 22. And he talks about how he lost his son. He lists a bunch of things about how he's dealing with the grief and how he's dealing with the pain. And she responds back with point form as well. And that's just the way my brain works. So I really appreciated that. And that made that letter really great for me. And the best part of the letter was the point that she makes in her response to him on number 16, where she states, the obliterated place is equal parts destruction and creation. The obliterated place is pitch black and bright light. It is water and parched earth. It is mud and it is manna. The real work of deep grief is making a home there. And I think that was probably one of my favorite quotes as well. I think it's really powerful, and I just found that her advice in this one to him and how she addressed him the way it appears he wanted to be addressed was really good. So that's why I really like that one.
Sorry, I messed this up. So I think Tabitha, now it's on you.
Okay, great. So for the question, I can't really say if it's which story it goes along with. I don't remember the story. I just remember her response where she talked about working at the school and when she was working with the girls who were at risk in that community. I really enjoyed what she was sharing in reference to her work with those girls and how she felt like, you know, I was like going to be a champion for them and to make things better for them. And then realizing that that wasn't a truth, that wasn't something she could actually do. And, but that she still wanted to give the girls the best tools that they could have so that they could do something. And her actually coming back to seeing one of the girls who was a manager at Taco Bell, it's like, oh, that's closure. I like to see that that she was able to witness that, hey, what, that little that I put into them, it stuck and it was beneficial to someone. So I don't know, I really enjoyed that, but I don't even know which story it went with.
That was a really beautiful story, and I can't remember which one it was either. Does anyone else remember? I'm sure someone in the comments will. I'll put it in the comments.
I think my favorite, like I said before, the last ones really spoke to me. But right now in my life, my husband and I are thinking about having kids, and there was a letter from a woman who was asking the same question. And we're pretty much like, we want to do this. We want to have kids. But her letter, like just how she responded about what motherhood is and what it's like, resonated with me a lot. So I was like, okay, here we go. I'm used to sleeping in on Saturdays, and I'm used to like all of these things, and that might look totally different in a year or a year and a half or whatever. So I think that one resonated with me the most right now where I am in my life.
I'm actually kind of scrambling here because, okay, the one that Tabitha was talking about, I don't know if she talks, I think she talks about those girls in multiple places. And that I was going to say, which is how you get unstuck, because I thought it was a different letter that she was saying that in response to, but I couldn't figure out why she was saying that in response to this letter. So that was the second letter, I think, the one that Tabitha was talking about. The letter that I thought that her answer was about. Not. Okay, so it's either the one that I relate to the most is either that one where she's talking about a miscarriage, like she and her boyfriend, it wasn't a planned pregnancy, but then they were excited about it, and then she had a miscarriage. The one where the mom writes from the hospital while her daughter is through treatments because she has a tumor and she's having brain surgery. And for some reason, I got those letters confused in my head. But just the way that she addresses like the loss and the parental concern struck me as a parent. And also in the one about the hospital, she's kind of talking about like wanting to believe in God, but really understanding like if her prayers are working. And so she kind of addresses I don't know, like how to move on, how to move forward while you're not sure if you believe in who you're praying to, I guess is kind of how I would describe it. And I don't know if this is what Lisamarie was talking about, but somebody who doesn't believe in God, I think her answer is really amazing. I mean, it's amazing for even if she did. Yeah, just the way that she responded to them in their and struggling, because I've been through loss, I've been through feeling not in the same way. I've never had a kid with a brain tumor. Like seeing how she relates to the people in that pain, which seems to be something that we've all kind of resonated with, is how she responds to the people in grief, and just their letters and the way that she answered them just really struck me in a powerful way.
Jana, sorry. Just wanted to piggyback on what Erica said, because I almost picked this story too. And it's the human scale story. And oh my gosh, I highlighted so much of that because, yeah, exactly what you said, Erica. I mean, that understanding of Christ and what the cross means has taken me all of my life to understand, and I'm just like scratching the surface. And so, and it's funny because when I read the letter, it's what I was thinking about, you know, is we as humans, at least I want to believe in the cosmic vending machine God, where I put in my quarter and I, you know, do things right. And, you know, he gives me what I want, and that's not, or what I need. And that's not, you know, that's not the God that is in the Bible. You know, that's not the God of the Bible. And coming to grips with that is like the essence of Christianity. And the quote that is on page 145 and kind of goes on to 146, this is the thing, I've probably read it 3 or 4 times since reading this book. And she says, you know, she's talking about, you know, basically like I will believe in you, God, if you're good to me, God, and how it doesn't exist because it fails to acknowledge that the other half of rising, the very half that makes rising necessary, is having first been nailed to the cross, pinned in place by your suffering. Perhaps the good that can come from this terrifying experience is a more complex understanding of what God means to you, so that the next time you need spiritual solace, you'll have something sturdier to lean on than the rickety "I believe he exists only if he gives me what I want" fence. So it's up to you to create a better one, a bigger one, which is really almost always something smaller. So she's talking about like a better, bigger God. What if the greatest beauty of the day is the shaft of sunlight through your window? What if the worst thing happened and you rose anyway? And oh my gosh, I feel like I need that like on a sign in my house. Like, what if the worst thing happened and you rose anyway? Because we all need that. We've all been through things. There is no life, no matter how blessed, without suffering. It just doesn't exist. And that reminder is something I need in my life, at least. So Jana, sorry to steal the ball from you. You're up.
What you just said reminded me, and I didn't think about it before. Beth Moore talks about that though, about like, so the worst thing happens to you and you lay on the floor. She says, and then what? Okay, so you're crying, and then what? And then you get up, you know? So the same kind of thing, like, you know, you have to move on. So I'm going to cheat, and I have 3, so you stole you went first. The future has an ancient heart, where like the English major was like, everyone wants me to go to law school, and I don't think that's what I want to do. And, you know, because that is kind of a thing that, you know, a lot of people don't know that unless they're an English major, but it's a very common thing. English majors go to law school because you're learning argumentation, and that's what like law school is. And so, like, that's what I was going to do. If I did not have kids, then I was going to go to law school, but I wanted to be a prosecuting attorney, and I didn't want to do that if I had kids because that's dangerous. And I just didn't think I would want to do both things. So clearly I didn't go to law school. So I understood that struggle of like, do you go to law school or do you do like other Englishy things? Because it's pretty much like you're a teacher or you go to law school or you write and struggle. But the one that, I don't know, I liked the other side of the pool one because I wanted to like give that to my mom so that she'll like read it and like be inspired to let my brother go to the other side of the pool. She could have wrote that letter. But the faux friendship footsie one, before I got married, and I got married like at 20, so, but I had like a group of friends I hung out with all the time. And one of my guy friends, like probably 2 or 3 weeks before my wedding, maybe even like a week before my wedding, I had to explain to him like why I could not invite him to my wedding. And it was for this very similar reason. Like there was just this like kind of like tension between us and our friendship, and I could tell that like he was interested in me, and you know, we did have like a chemistry, but I was like, I have been with this guy for 5 years and we are getting married, and like we can't be friends anymore. Like that's it, we're done. And it, like I had to like, we had to go and have this conversation, and like that one resonated with me, and for that reason, because I was like, I understand, you know, I was glad that that's the advice she gave the girl too. Like you either like you want to be with him or you don't. I just was like more the guy, not that like the girl was writing, but I was like, the guy in that relation, like the situation, like if it were flipped. But so that one resonated with me the most.
Okay, Cindy passed on this one. So number 4 is, what was your favorite quote or passage? So there's, again, so many. I'm like a collector of quotes. I just write down quotes in my free time and drink my coffee because I'm a huge nerd. So I'm going to be writing a lot from this book. But page 157, which was Beauty and the Beast. And if you didn't read the book, it was a while ago, you need a refresher. It was a letter written by a man who, I don't remember his exact physical limitations, but he had some sort of disease that disfigured him some, and he was saying he was overweight and he didn't feel, worthy enough to date. And so the letter is her response to that. And it was just so relatable, especially, with dating, of course, but especially as women, when she says, "Inhabit the beauty that lives in your beastly body and strive to see the beauty in all the other beasts. Walk without a stick in the darkest woods. Believe that the fairy tale is true." Just for so many different things, not just body image things, I feel like I also need that sign in my house. Walk without a stick in the darkest woods. So I love that. Tabitha, did you have a favorite quote?
She passed on that one. So my favorite quote, I think, wasn't from Cheryl. It was from the opening when Steve Almond wrote about her. And he says, "She offers what we wish every mother would, enough compassion to make us feel safe within our broken need, and enough wisdom to hold on to hope." Did that kind of overview of her and her letters, and that thought too of like, what if I did that for people? And not saying I have great advice, but gave them enough compassion to make them feel safe, and enough whatever wisdom I have to give them some hope. So I thought that was great.
There were a lot of quotes in here that I went through, underlined, and I really enjoyed, and I thought they were really profound. But the one that I keep coming back to is this passage in Terrible Someone about the lady who's with a guy, and she's, she wants to be happy with him, but she's convinced that because of her family history that she's going to get cancer and die and go through this pain. And so she's not, she should, how to prepare him for her impending death. Sometimes this is in her response to this lady. She says, "Sometimes when I'm all pretzeled up inside and my own crazy lady is nattering on, I'll stop and wonder where she got her information. I'll ask her to reveal her sources. I'll demand some proof." I'm like this. I have these two parts to me. I have like this really practical side, and then this like overactive imagination side of me. Sometimes the imagination gets a little carried away, and I start like worrying about things that are like completely like not even on the radar in my life. I know if I stop and I take a breath, like I'm fine. I'm nothing to worry about. There's nothing in the world that would part of my life that this is something that should be keeping me up at night or whatever. But I keep going back, like if there's something that I start thinking about, and you can start going down those spiral thoughts, they get worse and worse. I will think, where's the proof, or like some fact for this, and it will stop that spiraling thought. Happens when I start worrying about something that is totally irrelevant to my life, basically, and there's no reason for me to worry about it. So it was just like the way that she phrased it, and it's not even anything big that like I'll be worrying about, but like, oh, and then this happened, and then this happened, and I just have to be like there's no evidence that actually go in that direction. So just stop thinking about it now. And it has actually helped me to like stop it in that moment instead of like way further than it should.
I think my favorite thing, or not my favorite, but I think it's just one that I really liked, and it's like probably a little more raw and crass than like than I would say. Not well, no, not much. But it's from that one we were talking about where with the girls, and it is, what is the name of that? How You Get Unstuck. It is that one. And it's on page 28 at the bottom to page 29, and it says, I told her it was not okay, that it was unacceptable, that it was illegal, and that I would call and report this latest horrible thing. But I did not tell her it would stop. I did not promise that anyone would intervene. I told her it would likely go on and she'd have to survive it, that she'd have to find a way within herself to not only escape the shit, but transcend it. And if she wasn't able to do that, then her whole life would be shit forever and ever and ever. I told her that escaping the shit would be hard, but that if she wanted to not make her mother's life her destiny, she had to be the one to make it happen. She had to do more than hold on. She had to reach. She had to want it more than she'd ever wanted anything. She had to grab like a drowning girl for every good thing that came her way. And she had to swim like fuck away from every bad thing. She had to count the years and let them roll by, to grow up and then run as far as she could in the direction of her best and happiest dreams across the bridge that was built by her own desire to heal. And I just liked it because, I don't know, like there's so many of my students that are like, oh, I don't want to end up like the pregnant teen like my mom was, and then that student ends up pregnant, and I'm like, no, fight. I know you can do it. You can go to school and be pregnant, like you can. I've had friends who've done it, and I try to like encourage them in the same way, and just really like tell them like you have to do it, like it's you, like your mom can't do it for you, your grandma, your foster parent, like whoever, like, okay, you've made this decision, but in order to like embrace it and make a good thing out of it, like you have to do it. Like it's you. And if you want to change your life, then you have to do it. It can, I don't know. It's just like when you work with young kids who have messed up lives, it's just something you feel yourself like seeing and saying all the time. Like, but you have to change it. Like you can change it. You don't have to be like this. You don't have to behave this way or end up in jail too, or, become a pothead or whatever, different things. Like there's like so many different things. And so I just really liked that, she told her like, nobody's going to come and fix it, because like, it's just true. Like, especially like in California, there's so many like CPS reports and stuff. They can't catch them all, or like half of them. And once you're close to adulthood, it's kind of like, they're like, you're almost an adult. You could go get a job and move out if you really wanted to. And you could run away and we're probably not going to bother about it. So, which is very, very sad, but it's also just kind of the way it is.
Ironically, or maybe not ironically, I picked the exact same one as Erica did. Erica, we must be waving on the same wavelength. It was the response to Scared of the Future. And I picked the exact same quote. I love that she says, there's a crazy lady living in your head. I hope you'll be comforted to hear that you are not alone. Most of us have an invisible, inner terrible someone that says all sorts of nutty stuff that has no basis in truth. And I just think that that's definitely a relatable quote from the book. I think we all go to that dark place in our minds, especially when it's you have any kind of fear of the unknown, or it's something that you're maybe scared of, or just uncertain. So that's the one that I picked.
Awesome. Well, I think I'll finish this up by going for Tabitha. Since she said something that I absolutely loved, and I didn't notice she said I pass under it. And so I was like, oh yes, she's picking this one. And we've talked about it a few times, but let's see, what's the title? It's the story about the woman who lost her baby. How to Get Unstuck, of course. Love that title. So I loved how she said, you live on planet, my baby just died. And it's so interesting how suffering separates us from the world, or it can feel like it does. I just thought that quote was so relatable. Like so many things that I've gone through this year, it's been like, I can't relate to that. And I'm on like my own little planet because I'm on planet. I have to get through this. And I love the way she put that. Like she just articulated that feeling of kind of being like estranged from the world for a season. And at the end of 29, she says, nobody can intervene and make that right. And nobody will. Nobody can take it back with silence or push it away with words. Nobody will protect you from your suffering. You can't cry it away or eat it away, or starve it away, or walk it away, or punch it away, or even therapy it away. It's just there, and you have to survive it, and you have to endure it, and you have to live through it, and love it, and move on, be better for it, and run as far as you can in the direction of your best and happiest dreams across the bridge that was built by your own desire to heal. And I absolutely, I almost cried during that quote. For me, just really briefly, without going into too much of a tangent, this year's been one of the most challenging years of my life for a few reasons, but one of them is that I got pesticide poisoning this year, and pesticide poisoning attacks your central nervous system. So I was been dealing with all these crazy autoimmune things that just show up out of nowhere and leave out of nowhere and then come back, and it's just been hard. But I love that last line, that you just have to keep running in the direction of your best and happiest dreams, and just keep going with that desire to heal. And it's never going to be fair, and so many people deal with so many worse physical ailments and chronic illnesses and terminal illnesses that I can't even have a window into. But so much of this year for me is I live on planet pesticide poisoning. I can't do this after work or whatever. I'm just going to be happy to work. Yeah. So yeah, I love that quote. I feel like I live on planet, whatever you're going through is going to be something that resonates with me for a long time. All right, let's see. So number 5, I just kind of answered this one. What did you acknowledge about your own life while reading? I know this is kind of a deep one, so if you guys want to pass, of course, feel free. Tabitha, I know Cindy wants to pass. Okay, I'm trying to keep up with the passes. Tabitha, what do you have an answer?
Well, okay, this is interesting for me because I felt like after reading it and just going, man, I just what is with me? I'm just I don't trust people. So I was thinking about people who are interested in sending in their personal stories to someone to find out someone else's perspective or advice about it. And I don't know, I just find that so interesting to me because that's something that I would, oh my gosh, I would just be terrified to do that. I'm such a private person. Even people that I'm really close to, if I was going through something, I still most likely wouldn't even ask them for advice about it. So the book made me think about, because it's not these people are asking soft questions yeah, what color should I paint my bedroom? No, they're asking some serious stuff. And so it just made me think about my own life and say, hey, well, what is it with me where I'm just I would never do that. There's probably 2 people I would ask something serious, but I don't know, just the fact that they're not terrified to do that, I would just be, I don't know. So it made me think about that aspect of my personality and say, why do because I would totally give someone advice or listen to someone's story or want to console someone, but when it comes to myself, I'm a little really guarded. So that's what it made me think about, just the context, especially because it's so popular, all the letters that she got and all of the people who were just willing to just be so open and so raw, like some of the people were saying. I don't know, that was interesting to me. It made me think about my own life and my own personality.
I think going off of that, this idea that people would just write their most personal things down and send it in, and granted it's anonymous, but still it kind of opened up this idea of I may have 2 people in my life that I'm super vulnerable with, and that doesn't need to open up to the whole world, but maybe it needs to open up to more, just to get more perspective and more advice or more wisdom from people that I trust even. So I don't know that I'll be writing her a letter anytime soon, but maybe asking more people like, hey, what do you think about this? And how should I handle this situation or this loss or this feeling of wanting children or whatever that might be? And just getting, I think I get caught in my own head and I'm like, oh, well, I read about it, so it's fine. I get advice that way. But it's not the same as hearing from people who know you as well as people who may not know you so well. And so they can give you kind of that outside perspective. That's really good.
Yeah, I coincidentally was reading a book. It's a novel about a woman who basically giving advice on the radio. And so I don't know. I don't know if this quote is from that book or this book. From the answers that she gave a lot of people, I feel like, other book or not, that she kind of feels this way a lot of times. A lot of times, people, when they write in for advice, they already kind of have given her the answer that they know. Like I can think of probably 2 or 3 examples without, not specifically, but without flipping through the book. Like, you already know what you need to do. So basically, do the thing that you know you need to do. And just realizing that when it comes to like these big major decisions, most of the time we probably have the answer that we need, just finding the strength to do it. And I think that was the quote is book, which I can find the title of it if somebody wants to know it, but I don't know it right off the top of my head. She says, I didn't tell you what to do. I gave you the strength to, or I empowered you to use your own strength to do what you already knew to do. But it's just kind of that doing what you know you should do, because most of the time what you feel that you should do, that's the answer. And when it's like, well, this could work this way or this could work this way, and it doesn't really matter which one I do, because either way I can see good things and I can see bad things. It's not like a do or die type situation. And it's just, you have to actually search yourself and find what you know, and like talk, like Margie was saying, talk to the people that know you the best, get their advice, because more than likely that situation, whichever one you choose is probably going to be okay. But you have to kind of, like Lisamarie was talking about, I regret not doing, then that's what you need to do. So just, I guess, realizing that it's just find the courage and the strength to do what we know needs to be done.
Kind of like Tabitha, like I really like was like, I don't understand. Like, it just made me really think about how like I go about like problem management, I guess. And like I am not like the most like emotionally, like I'm very stoic. So I do things by logic. So I think that's part of why I'm like, why would you write someone like logic, like use your logic. So I'm very like my husband and I will like logic it out. And obviously like you have to have emotions, and there's like emotions and stuff, but it's so much easier for me to navigate logically things than to like go emotional. It's just, I just find it's just so much easier for me. And so it just kind of reminded me of that, and kind of the idea that like when I do have a big problem, that like I really do try to stick like foundationally in like like where would God want it? Like, why is this happening? And not in like not in the sense of the one Lisamarie was reading from, like, of why does God allow this to happen? But like, okay, this has a purpose. If I just wait it out, like, I'm very like methodical and logical. And when you look at how other people panic or write and seek out advice from like a stranger on the internet, you don't know, which is probably why they feel safe, because it's a stranger on the internet. So if the stranger judges them and never reads their letter, they don't know about it, so they feel safe about it. And so I'm gonna assume that's why they do it. But it just made me think about like how much more like methodical I am, and probably in part because I want to like control my own thought process, and I need to sit alone. Like even when I had a miscarriage, my friend was like, "Do you want me to meet you at the hospital?" And I was like there by myself, and I was like, "No, like this is like I got to do like me. Like I don't need to navigate my emotions and then your emotions about my thing. I just need like mine, and like I'll be like by myself and I'll be fine." And so I think that's it. It just reminds me of like those things about myself. It helped like kind of reiterate like my own focus, my own world focus of how I would do things, I guess.
Okay, Cindy passed. So the next question, this is another one that feel free to pass. I know Margie wants to pass. I'm going to try and remember. So what question would you ask Cheryl if you were given the chance? So for me, I kind of touched on it earlier, but I would love to know what holds her back from believing in God or from Christianity. I think if I lost my mom at 23, I would probably not be a Christian either, because I just think that would completely change my worldview in a way that would maybe separate me from God, because I can't think of a more terrible thing to happen in my own life. So yeah, she's just so incredibly insightful. Like, I'm just kind of like we do every Thursday. Like, I just want to have like a salon with her where I just like pick her brain, because she just has so much depth and wisdom to share. And I'd love to just have a cup of coffee with her. And well, first I would ask her to read Mere Christianity, because I want to know her thoughts on all of it, like including notes. And then I would just want to have a cup of coffee with her and talk about Jesus. Let's see. I have to keep up with the skips. I always forget when I'm done talking. Let's see. Tabitha, do you have any question you would ask Cheryl?
Yeah, so the question that I would have is, who does she turn to for advice? That would be my question for her. Because just thinking about like, so often she's, getting these letters and people are asking advice of her. So I guess like maybe who would she like to get some advice from? I think that would be interesting. I'd also like to know just more about, like I said, her experience when she was working at the school with the youth, the girls who were in the poor neighborhood. I was so curious. I mean, I would love it if she wrote a book about that. I mean, if there was enough, to write a book. I haven't read Wild, but I think that, I don't know, I want to at least check it out. Because like I said, I do like the way that she writes, even though this particular content wasn't my thing. But yeah, so that's kind of like, yeah, what's your next book? What's going on? What's going on with you? What other perspectives, instead of just the letters from other people, like kind of what else is going on with her? Like I said, it's very interesting. She seems very interesting. That would be my question.
Mine goes right along with that, Tabitha, because I originally, when I went to grad school, which I did not finish, but I was going to I was going to major in counseling and youth ministry, because I wanted to work with like youth that were, in need of counseling. And so I was thinking about this after Lisamarie sent us the questions today. Like, I would read a book about how she in that job in the school and some of the stories that she talks about, and just going more in depth with that, like how she got involved, because she kind of skipped over it, basically saying like she wasn't qualified for it, but she was doing it anyway. So I just think it would be an interesting story, and cool stories, and especially like working with teenagers is like something that has been a big part of my life. And so I read a book about that, and I would have all sorts of questions about that aspect of her life.
The question I would ask her, based on this specific book, what would be just something basic. I'm curious as to which letter she's received probably historically was the hardest to respond to, or which one she sort of lost the most sleep over. She talks about reading the letter and kind of letting marinate it, thinking about how she's going to answer it and kind of which direction she's going to take the response in. I'd be curious to find out if there's specific letters that kind of touch her personally or kind of touch her soul to respond, or whether, and how she kind of, I'm sure she gets thousands of them. How does she pick through which ones she's actually going to address, and what does she do with the ones that she doesn't? So I guess, more of the technical questions, I suppose. I'd be curious to hear what she says as to how she handles those.
Awesome. Well, that is a wrap on all of our questions for the night. Thank you guys for making time in your schedule to be here live. And of course, those of you that are watching the replay too, I so appreciate just all of the candor and just having a monthly chat about life. Kind of, hopefully it kind of starts with a book, but then we just kind of get to talk about the human experience, which is so fun. So next month, we're reading something much lighter. We are reading My True Love Gave to Me, which is 12 young adult Christmas stories. I think it's going to be a really fun read. I have not started it yet, but I'm excited to read this and kind of get into the holiday spirit. I already have planned to start reading a story a night by the Christmas tree. I think that sounds just very festive and the perfect way to close out book club. So, of course, we do have Christmas to navigate this month, but we are meeting on the 28th, which is the last Thursday of the month as usual. I hope you guys can make it. I know that the holidays, of course, can be really busy, but if you could make some time, that would be awesome. Our December book club is always a little lighter than usual, but we'll be here, same time, same place. So I'll see you then. Yeah, let's see, what else? We do have a Paper Glam Book Club channel now. So starting in 2018, so with the January chat, we will be moving our live streams to the book club channel. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to that one, because come January, we'll be over there. So yeah, of course, I'll share links and everything so nobody will get lost. But just wanted to make sure everyone's circled in there. And then there's lots of reading stickers in the outlet. Last year's Glam Reads are on sale, and this year's are almost identical. There's just a little more room to write book titles on the review stickers, but other than that, there's some 50% off Glam that is calling your name, and there's just a few left, so I'd love to send those home to you. And I think that's it. I will see you guys next month. Have such a Merry Christmas, and next month we'll be here and walking into a Glam New Year. Good night.